Here's another entrant into the thankfully growing EV segment, and this time it's not an SUV as well, which is another thing to be glad of. This is the Cupra Born, and if it looks a little bit familiar, then of course it is, because it's in essence a slightly rebadged, reworked version of the Volkswagen ID.3, and that's no bad thing because the ID.3 is an excellent car. So let's see, what have Cupra done to make it their own? Let's find out.
Take a moment, enjoy the calm. You could be stuck on the N7 with two teething toddlers, but we don't do stress at the AA. We do roadside rescue, and our trained mechanics fix 8 out of 10 problems at the roadside. Buy online now at theAA.ie. Relax. Yellow and black have got your back.
Before we go on, I will of course ask you to help us grow our fledgling YouTube channel by hitting that subscribe button. Do like this video if you think it's any good, and of course hit the bell icon to stay in touch with all of our latest video releases. I think it's fair to say Cupra have done a really good job with the styling of the Born. This of course was supposed to be a Seat. It was originally going to be the Seat L-Born. Then it was decided that Cupra would be the brand that would take care of electric vehicles, and I think in the future Seat might become something more of a mobility provider for smaller vehicles, maybe even scooters and e-scooters. But for now, they still exist, and Cupra very much exists because they are certainly a brand on the up. The design of this is really, really handsome. Of course, starting with the front end where there's an almost shark nose grille. There's that very striking copper Cupra badge, Cupra lettering across the front. And of course, another copper grille towards the bottom. It's nice LED lights across the front as well. On the side, of course, 20-inch alloy wheels. These are optional 20-inch wheels. You would get 18s or 19s on standard version, but these do look really smart, so do please add them if you can. And of course, on the side, what we have here in particular is around the C-pillar, which has this almost floating roof appearance. Overall, it's a very, very good looking car, and certainly for me, I think probably one of the best looking mainstream, so you know, around 40 grand EVs on sale today. Around the back, they've done lots of nice work too. Again, plenty of these copper Cupra badges and Cupra lettering, so they're really proud of the new name. So underneath here, there's a 385 or so litre boot space, which is okay. It's less than you would have found in something like a Volkswagen Golf or Seat Leon, but it's still adequate and decent enough space for a car this size. The choice for the Cupra Born is actually pretty straightforward. So at entry point for now, you have a 58 kilowatt hour battery, and that's good for a WLTP range of about 420 kilometers. Then there's the larger battery, which is a 77 kilowatt hour battery, which has a WLTP figure of 548. Now, obviously, you can reduce that number for both models because it never really does the full WLTP range. So think of it as about 350 for the 58 kilowatt hour battery, and maybe 450, 460 for the larger 77 kilowatt hour battery. There will of course be a new entry point later in the year. There is a 45 kilowatt hour battery coming with 150 horsepower. No details on pricing or range just yet on that, but we suspect about 30,000 euros starting off, which would make it a very attractive car. So which one should you buy? I mean, we've been in this 231 horsepower with the 77 kilowatt hour battery, and it's 46,000 euro. Do you need that? And that's the question that people are going to have to start asking themselves. Do you need to spend all that more money for not much more range? That's really up to you, but if it was us, we would probably have the 58 kilowatt hour battery with the smaller performance 204 horsepower, and we'd start adding a few more toys, maybe these wheels, the head-up display, which is excellent, and of course the heat pump. So inside the cabin of the Cupra Born, it is a nice place to be. It is, as you might expect, very similar in some ways to the ID.3, but it of course has its own Cupra touches. Of course, the prominent Cupra steering wheel. This multifunction steering wheel is also a little bit different to any of the Volkswagen brand ones. Here you have your 12.3 inch display. It has its own Cupra functionality to it, of course, as well. But of course, there is also Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is the default setting for lots of people these days. Wireless charging down here, lots of copper styling touches throughout the cabin as well, and also really nice upholstery too. So you also have your digital display in behind the steering wheel, and this one, probably not that you can see it here, also has a head-up display, which is about a €960 option. So what's the Cupra Born like to drive? Well, look, it's going to be very similar to the ID3 upon which it's based, but they have made the car a little bit tighter, a little bit more sporty. There certainly seems to be a bit more of a hard edge to it. Any of the versions fitted with a dynamic chassis control are lower, about 14 mils lower front and rear, so that's quite a bit lower. And yeah, it just feels a tad sportier. It's again not a rocket by any means. This is the most powerful version, the 231 horsepower version, or PS should we say, and that's gonna get you to 100 kilometers per hour in about 6.6 seconds. Top speeds about 160 kilometers per hour. But it's a nice car to drive. It is comfortable and sporty, which is a tricky blend to get right, because often it can feel a little bit hard edged when you start putting the sporty aspect into the suspension. But this is definitely a comfortable car as well, even sitting on these huge 20-inch wheels as we see here. In terms of space, it's fine up front. Rear seat passengers are pretty well taken care of as well. Boot space, as we've mentioned, is 358 litres. Not massive, but also enough. I know everyone in this segment wants those huge electric SUVs, but if you just want a normal car that actually drives really well, has nice handling, they've done a really lovely job on making this car feel a little bit more sporty, then this is going to be a really good choice. Supply is going to be a bit of an issue right away on this car, but once things free up a bit more, this would be a gorgeous car to own. I mean, it looks great, the kit is fabulous, and certainly it's a prettier car than the Volkswagen ID3. And for anyone who doesn't need acres and acres of space, but just enough space, this is a lovely buy.